Mike, here we are a week before the start of the fall, sitting, normally a time when the government is polishing off the legislation it plans to introduce, and the opposition are getting ready to set their own agenda. But we've got a bit of palace intrigue, the government looking to replace the Speaker.
It's highly unusual, not the least of which because of how rarely this situation happens, but also because the government has a lot of very serious things it's facing and needs to deal with here. And so you have to wonder why it would create what is in effect an unnecessary distraction. Yet here we are. The government's line is that they're looking at succession planning and creating opportunities for other MLAs. But what's interesting is the position of Speaker, although it's voted on by all MLAs, is independent of government. And so it is unusual then for a government, when talking about a Speaker it put forward, to be looking to remove them in the absence of any evidence of a real problem.
In fact, the last time we had a no confidence motion in this House to remove a Speaker was back when Paul McEwen was in the chair, and then a successful no confidence motion. You have to go back 150 years.
1875.
I wasn't there, just to clear that up.
But let's talk about, for a minute, why it matters. The position of Speaker is, in essence, the person who runs the show here. They determine who gets to speak, when they get to speak, whether they're speaking about the appropriate thing. And like a good umpire in baseball, we acknowledge that they're there, but we don't notice them. And that is to say they're meant to be impartial. There will be times when they anger the government side of the House, as Keith Bain has done, and there will be times when they anger the opposition side of the House with their rulings, as Keith Bain has done. The point is, they are not supposed to be, in a perfect world, showing favoritism.
And let's face it, Keith Bain isn't the first Speaker to annoy the people who put them there. I can think back of Charlie Parker when the NDP had him as Speaker during their time in office. I know he annoyed the Premier, and frankly, Paul McEwen annoyed everyone with some of the decisions he made. But what's different is neither time did the government try to oust the Speaker out of that job a year into their mandate.
The other thing that's interesting here is that as news about this has trickled out over the last couple of days, the people coming to Keith Bain's support are in fact not the people who nominated him for Speaker. The Liberals and the NDP have both praised Keith Bain for his integrity, his honesty, his fairness, and his nonpartisanship. On the government side of the House, Keith Bain's caucus colleagues a bit less firm in their support.
How's he doing? As far as I know, okay, I guess.
So where does this leave us? Well, we know because Keith Bain has told us he's not going anywhere. He intends to keep doing his job. That means that when MLAs come back here next week, if the government wants Keith Bain gone, they are going to have to force the issue with a non-confidence vote, and that sets up some very politically interesting scenarios.
First of all, the government would have to be unified in voting against Keith Bain, first off, and if they win the day, then we have to go immediately into a secret ballot vote to pick a new Speaker. If the opposition decides that they want Keith Bain, they can nominate Keith Bain, and then that puts the pressure on the government MLAs to decide whether or not they think their colleague is being treated fairly and whether or not they want to support him by this secret ballot. Where does that leave the government? Well, it leaves the government, even if they win the day, perhaps with a divided caucus. Never a good thing in politics.